It is May, right now. The ground is warm, the light is long, and your garden is wasting it, buying the same annuals they bought last spring. Plants that will be dead by September. Plants they will have to buy all over again next May. What I am giving you today is completely different. 10 perennials you plant this May, once, and they come back every year, blooming longer, growing stronger, and asking almost nothing from you in return. Some of them will still be flowering when your neighbors' gardens have completely given up for the season. We are counting down from 10 to 1, and I am telling you right now, number 1 is the single longest blooming hardy perennial most gardeners can grow. When you hear its bloom season, you will understand immediately why it tops this list, and you will want it in the ground before this weekend is over. Here is what makes May so important. Perennials planted now, in warm soil with the whole growing season ahead of them, have time to establish a real root system before their first winter. That means they come back in year 2 bigger, stronger, and more floriferous than anything you could buy off a shelf. You are not just buying a plant, you are investing in a garden that gets better every year, on its own. But here is where most gardeners make a costly mistake. They plant for right now. They buy whatever looks good in the garden center this week, take it home, enjoy it for a few weeks, and then spend the rest of spring, summer, and fall staring at a border that has already peaked and is just coasting toward dormancy. The solution is not more plants, it is smarter plants. Plants selected specifically for how long they bloom, not just how good they look in a pot in May. Every plant on this list was chosen because it earns its space for months, not weeks. Plant them this May and they will be delivering color from late spring through the first frost. Some will still be in bloom when you are raking leaves. That is the May planting promise. Let me show you exactly how to make it happen. Before we start the countdown, I want to ask you one thing. What does your garden look like right now, this May? Is it full of promise and ready to go? Or are you starting from scratch and not sure where to begin? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you will know exactly which of these 10 plants to put in the ground first and why. And if you are not subscribed to this channel yet, do that right now. We publish deep dive perennial gardening content every single week. Practical, research-backed, and specific enough to actually change what happens in your garden. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, let's get into it. 10 plants, every one of them available at garden centers right now in May. Every one of them chosen because its bloom window stretches across months, not weeks. I will give you zones, care requirements, and the single most important thing to know before you plant each one. The first few are reliable workhorses you may already know. The middle group is where things get genuinely exciting. And the top 3, especially number 1, are the plants that will change how you think about what a late season garden can look like. Starting at number 10. Plant number 10, Dianthus, Garden Pinks. Dianthus times hybrida. Zones 3 through 9, 5 minutes to 6:30 minutes, approximately 1.5 minutes. Plant number 10 kicks off this list by doing something most flowering perennials in May cannot do. It blooms immediately, smells extraordinary, and keeps going all the way through fall. Dianthus carries a sweet, spicy, clove-like fragrance that intensifies in the warm May evenings and drifts right across a garden. The fringed, ruffled blooms in shades of pink, red, white, and bicolor open from late spring, and with regular deadheading, continue in waves through to October. Modern reblooming varieties like Fire Witch and First Love are particularly relentless, 5 full months of fragrant flowers with minimal encouragement. Care essentials. Full sun and excellent drainage are non-negotiable. Dianthus hates wet feet. Soggy soil will rot the roots quickly. Low growing at 6 to 12 inches, it is ideal for border edges and containers. Plant it now in May, trim spent blooms consistently, and it will reward you with fragrance and color right through to the first hard frost. May planting tip. Dianthus is already in active growth in May. Plant it in well-amended, fast-draining soil, and it will establish rapidly and start rewarding you within weeks. Plant number 9, woodland sage, Salvia nemorosa, Caradonna/Mainite, zones 4 to 8. Number 9 is one of the most awarded, most recommended, and most consistently reliable perennials of the last 2 decades, and it is perfectly timed to go in the ground right now in May. Salvia nemorosa produces upright spikes of rich violet, deep purple, or intense blue flowers starting in late spring, meaning plants you put in the ground this May will be in bloom within weeks. Cut it back by 1/3 after that first flush, and it rebounds quickly with a second wave. Many gardeners reliably get 3 full bloom cycles from a single plant between May and September. That is an extraordinary performance record for any perennial. Caradonna is the benchmark cultivar, deep purple-black stems carrying intense violet flowers. It has won multiple international awards and is consistently ranked among the finest perennials introduced in the modern era. Compact, tidy, no staking required, deer-resistant, drought-tolerant once established. Full sun, average soil. May advantage. Plants going in now, in May, will establish through early summer and deliver a particularly strong second and third bloom by late summer and fall, better than anything planted later in the season.
Plant number 8, Scabiosa, Pincushion Flower, Scabiosa columbaria, zones 3 to 7. Scabiosa earns its place on this list not through drama, but through sheer persistence, and it is one of the most underrated long-season bloomers you can plant this May. The flowers are delicate and instantly charming, soft, layered, rounded blooms in lavender, blue, white, and pink on slender stems that nod gently in any breeze. They look effortless and romantic, and they suit any garden style from cottage to contemporary. Planted in May, Scabiosa will begin blooming in early summer and continue with almost no interruption through fall in cooler climates, 4 to 5 months of flowers when deadheaded consistently. The more you cut it, the more it blooms. It is one of those genuinely rewarding plants that responds directly to the attention you give it. Full sun, average to lean, well-draining soil, and regular moisture during dry spells. Pair it with bolder plants like Rudbeckia or Helenium. Scabiosa's airy softness creates a perfect visual counterpoint to their intensity and gives your border a lightness that heavier plants cannot provide. Pro tip: swallowtail and skipper butterflies are particularly drawn to Scabiosa. If you are building a pollinator garden this May, this plant belongs on the list without question.
Plant number 7, Russian sage, Perovskia atriplycifolia, zones 4 through 9. If you plant one thing this May that will completely transform how your garden looks from midsummer through October, make it Russian sage. The entire plant, stems, leaves, and flowers, is coated in silvery white down. The tiny purple-blue flowers cover every stem in a continuous haze of color from midsummer through October. In a breeze, the whole structure moves like smoke. It is one of the most visually distinctive plants in perennial gardening, and it looks like nothing else in the summer and fall garden. May is the ideal planting time because Russian sage needs a full growing season to establish its root system before winter. Plants you put in now will arrive at midsummer ready to bloom with full vigor, which is exactly when you need them most as your spring perennials begin to wind down. The one thing you must do: cut it back hard every late winter or early spring, all the way down to 6 inches above the ground, every single year without exception. That single habit keeps it upright, full, and spectacular. Skip it and the plant becomes woody and floppy within a couple of seasons. Do it consistently and Russian sage is essentially indestructible. Design combination. Russian sage against the golden yellow of Rudbeckia or Gaillardia is one of the most photographed perennial pairings in garden design. The cool silver blue against warm gold creates a contrast that looks deliberately designed, even when it has not been.
Plant number 6, lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, zones 5 to 8, variety dependent. Lavender is one of the most wanted plants in any garden, and May is the single best month of the year to get it in the ground. Planting lavender in May gives it the entire summer growing season to establish its root system in warm soil before its first winter test.
Plants established in May bloom more reliably in year 2 and 3, live significantly longer, and handle cold better than lavender planted later in the season. English lavender blooms in early to midsummer, filling your garden with those unmistakable purple wands and an intoxicating fragrance that is simply impossible to replicate with any other plant. Shear it lightly right after the first bloom, and many varieties, Hidcote and Munstead especially, will give you a strong second flush in late summer. The non-negotiables. Full, uncompromising sun. Exceptional drainage. This plant evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides. It needs conditions that mimic that. If your soil holds water after rain, plant lavender in a raised bed or amend heavily with grit and coarse sand. Get those two things right in May, and lavender will reward you for 10 to 15 years. Variety guidance. For Zone 4 cold hardiness, Hidcote or Munstead. For exceptional disease resistance and winter toughness across most of North America, Phenomenal is the benchmark modern cultivar. For Zone 9 and above, switch to Lavandula X Intermedia or Lavandula Stochas, which handle heat significantly better. Prune annually by 1/3 immediately after flowering. Never cut into old woody stems with no green growth. That one maintenance habit, done every year, is the difference between lavender that thrives for a decade and lavender that needs replacing.
Plant number 5, Reblooming Daylily. Hemerocalis, reblooming cultivars. P1 through 11, most cultivars. Number 5 is a critical distinction because not all daylilies belong on a list about long bloom seasons. The classic orange roadside ditch lily blooms once in early summer, and that is the end of it. We're talking specifically about modern reblooming cultivars, which are an entirely different plant in terms of seasonal performance. Stella d'Oro, Happy Returns, Rosy Returns, and Pardon Me are the varieties to know. These start blooming in late spring, sometimes by the end of May for plants already in the ground, and continue producing fresh flowers in waves right through fall. Stella d'Oro, the most widely planted of all, can bloom from late May clear into October, depending on your climate. That is one of the longest flowering windows of any commonly grown perennial. May is the perfect planting time. Bare root divisions go in fast, establish quickly in warm spring soil, and many will give you their first blooms before summer even begins. Full sun to part shade, drought tolerant, heat tolerant, essentially zero care once established. Remove spent flowerscapes after each bloom cycle to trigger the next round. Important, daylilies are highly toxic to cats, all parts of the plant, including pollen. If cats access your garden, skip this one entirely or fence it off.
Plant number 4, Catmint. Nepeta X Facani, Walker's Low. Zones 4 to 8. If there is one plant on this entire list that I would put in the ground this May without a second of hesitation, it is Catmint. And I say that knowing the competition. Walker's Low, which despite the name reaches 24 to 36 inches, explodes in late spring with a massive flush of soft lavender blue flowers that cover the entire mounding plant from edge to edge. Planted in May, it will be in bloom within weeks. Shear it back by half after that first flush and it regrows quickly, blooming again and again. In ideal conditions, you can get 3 to 4 full bloom cycles between May and October. It won the Perennial Plant of the Year award. Deer-resistant, drought-tolerant, a pollinator magnet. Bees respond to it with an enthusiasm that borders on obsession. The aromatic silver-green foliage looks tidy and attractive between bloom cycles, so the plant earns its space even when it is not flowering. Why May planting matters here. Catmint planted in May has time to fully establish before its first bloom peak, which means that first June flush is genuinely spectacular, dense, full, and completely covering the plant. Wait until summer to plant and you miss that first wave entirely. Get it in the ground now. Design note. Pair catmint with roses for one of the most classic and beautiful combinations in garden design. Or let it spill over low walls and path edges where the cascading habit looks completely natural. It makes every garden look more intentional than it actually is.
Plant number 3, Black-Eyed Susan. Rudbeckia fulgida var Sullivantii Goldsturm. Zones 3 to 9. Goldsturm is one of the greatest perennials ever introduced into cultivation.
That is not enthusiasm. That is a consensus that is held for decades across the horticultural world. And May is precisely when you want it going into the ground. From midsummer through fall, July through October in most zones, Goldsturm produces an endless supply of bright golden yellow daisy flowers with deep chocolate brown centers. At peak bloom, a mature clump is essentially a solid dome of gold that lights up every corner of the border it occupies. 3 to 4 months of continuous color from a plant that is hardy in zones 3 through 9, fully drought tolerant once established, and virtually pest and disease free. Plants put in the ground this May will spend early summer building a strong root system, then arrive at their midsummer bloom peak with full vigor, exactly the performance you want. And here is the season extension bonus. Leave the seed heads standing through fall and winter. Goldfinches, sparrows, and seed-eating birds will feed on them through the coldest months. You extend the garden's value well beyond the last flower. May design tip. Plant Goldsturm alongside the Russian sage you planted earlier on this list. The warm golden yellow against cool silver blue is one of the most striking perennial combinations in existence, and both plants are going in the ground this May.
Plant number 2, Coreopsis, tick seed. Coreopsis versicolata, Moonbeam, Zagreb, zones 3 to 9. Number 2 on this list has one of the most remarkable bloom seasons in all of temperate perennial gardening. Threadleaf Coreopsis, specifically Moonbeam, Zagreb, and Golden Gain, blooms from early summer through fall. In ideal conditions, planted in May, it will flower from late June all the way to the first hard frost. That is 4 to 5 months of uninterrupted color without deadheading, without much water, without much intervention at all. Moonbeam is the variety that changed how designers and gardeners thought about this plant. Its soft, pale butter yellow flowers are gentle enough in tone to harmonize with virtually anything in the garden. They do not dominate, they complete. Plant Moonbeam between stronger colors and it makes everything around it look more considered. It won the Perennial Plant of the Year award and has never left the top tier of perennial recommendations since. Here is why May planting is specifically important for Coreopsis. It establishes its fine, ferny root system in warm spring soil and arrives at its early summer bloom peak already fully anchored. Plants that establish in May bloom more prolifically in year 1 and divide more successfully in year 2 than anything planted later. Growing notes: full sun, good drainage, and lean soil. Coreopsis actually blooms better in lean conditions. Enrich the soil too much and you get lush foliage with almost no flowers. Minimal fertilizer. It thrives on neglect once established, and butterflies visit it constantly throughout the long bloom season.
Plant number 1, blanket flower, Gaillardia x grandiflora, zones 3 through 9. Here it is, number 1. And if you plant nothing else from this entire list this May, plant this. Gaillardia begins blooming in late spring, often by the very end of May for plants already establishing in the ground. And it does not stop until the first hard frost kills it back. In most zones, that is 5 to 6 months of continuous flowers from a single perennial plant with minimal care. No other commonly grown hardy perennial comes close to matching that. The flowers are bold, fiery daisy forms in combinations of red, orange, burgundy, and gold, often banded in multiple colors on a single flower. They look like tiny sunsets. Modern compact varieties like Arizona Sun, Goblin, and the Spin Top series stay tidy without staking and bloom with extraordinary density. It is native to open prairies and roadsides across North America, born in heat, drought, and poor soil. Full sun and excellent drainage are its only real requirements. Rich, moist soil actually shortens its life. Give it lean, sunny, well-drained ground this May, and it rewards you with color every single day through to the first frost. Why it is number 1? Nothing else on this list, nothing else in hardy perennial gardening, matches the combination of bloom duration, toughness, and visual impact that Gaillardia delivers from a single planting. Planted in May, watch it bloom by the end of the month, and it will not stop until winter. That is the promise. That is why it is number 1.
Your May planting blueprint. Here is exactly how to put all 10 of these plants together into a garden that never has a color gap from late spring through the first frost. Plant in May, Bloom starts immediately. Dianthus, Salvia nemorosa, and Catmint will give you flowers within weeks of going in the ground this May. These are your immediate return investments. Plant them first and enjoy color while everything else is establishing. Plant in May, peak bloom from midsummer. Russian sage, rudbeckia, and coreopsis need the spring and early summer to build root systems before their bloom peak. Plant them this May, water consistently through June, and they arrive at their midsummer stride with full vigor. These are the plants that carry your garden from July through September. Plant in May, long season anchor plants. Gaillardia, daylily, and lavender are your anchor plants, the ones that define the season. Gaillardia starts in May and runs to frost. Daylilies wave through summer and fall. Lavender fills the early summer with fragrance and structure that holds all season. Get all three in the ground now. The late season takeover. Scabiosa and Russian sage extend your bloom display right into October, long after most spring-planted annuals have given up entirely. These plants are why your garden will still look deliberately designed in the second week of October, while your neighbors are looking at bare beds. Every one of these 10 plants is available at garden centers right now in May. Every one of them will establish in warm spring soil and deliver months of color this season. You have the list, you have the blueprint. The only thing left to do is go plant them. 10 plants, 1 May planting session. A garden that blooms from late spring all the way to the first frost, every year without replanting. Go back to your comment, the one about what your garden looks like right now in May. Tell me which of these 10 you are planting first. I genuinely want to see your choices. If this video helped you, one plant you did not know about, one strategy that changes how you garden this season, share it with one friend who's out there planting right now. That is the best possible thing you can do for this channel. Subscribe if you have not already. Every week we go this deep on perennial gardening, the kind of content that actually changes what you grow and how well it performs. Hit the bell so you see it. Coming up next, the biggest mistakes gardeners make when planting perennials for the first time, and exactly how to avoid every single one of them. Now, go get these plants in the ground. Your future garden starts this May.